Welcome back to Taking Back Monday, where we are saying goodbye to the Sunday scaries and hello to meaningful work. As a firstborn daughter, stepping up and taking charge often feels like second nature to me. There's a part of me that instinctively wants to manage everything. However, I've been learning the hard way that being perpetually oversubscribed does not equate to being effective. And embracing the art of no has been one of my goals for this year. Not just in setting personal boundaries, but in opening up other opportunities for other people to step forward. In today's episode, we're going to dive into a powerful concept introduced by our guest, Bill Simmons. The idea that there is a difference between inviting people to lead rather than merely asking them to. It's about empowering others to take initiative and lead projects, reshaping what their contribution and control looks like. This approach has challenged me to assess my own role, recognizing that sometimes the best way for me to contribute to the success of a project is by allowing someone else to take the reins. We explore how saying no might just be the most profound way to grow for both our teams and ourselves, and how invitations to lead can unlock potential in ways traditional directives never could. Welcome to Taking Back Monday. I am so excited to welcome an incredible guest today. Welcome to Bill Simmons. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been excited about this all day long.
So, Bill, I'm curious, was there a specific moment in your journey that really reshaped your thinking about what it means to lead a team?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always say you can be educated, but if you want real understanding, you have to have experience, right? And so being put in the experience of leading a team and learning from the mistakes and the failures, absolutely transformed. A lot of story behind that, but when I was before starting what is today Thrive, I was an executive director for a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. And our job was to influence college freshmen who would come for 2 semesters from August to September to learn how to do urban outreach. To say that and then bring the team together, I was somewhat of a control freak, and learning to let people be people.
Yeah.
In building a team and appreciating their differences was a huge part of, making it happen. Being responsible, being in charge does not make you a leader, right? And so I had to learn very quickly. I'm a type A personality. I'm a high D on the disc, if anybody's not familiar with the disc. So I actually am very comfortable organizing people.
Yeah.
Right. And when that is in an unhealthy way, it can come across manipulative. But when it's done in a serving way,
Right.
then it creates collaboration and opportunity because somebody has to lead, right? And I believe that people want that. People want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so we have to be open to being inspiring leaders, but not dictators.
The other side of that too, because I think sometimes leaders get in this rut of, I just have to be the inspirational figurehead and just stand up there and say, hey, I'm the leader, rah, rah, let me be your cheerleader. But there's almost that balance between, I'm gonna be the leader, I'm gonna say this is the way it is, but I also am here to be your cheerleader and to cheer you on, almost that connection in between. What's your experience with leadership that really bridges that gap?
Yeah, motivation is valuable. You need motivation. Inspiration is important, right? You want to inspire people to follow, but um, giving leading by example,
Mm.
and one of our core values in our company is servant leadership, and that can mean a lot of different things to different people. So you have to unpack even definitions of words today, right? And for us, when it's our mission statement: serve people, solve problems. And so as leaders, often sometimes you have to recognize that though I am quote unquote in charge, there are moments that I'm going to ask you to lead, but I'll follow. I know I'm in charge, but I'm inviting you to lead. And by your leading, I'm going to demonstrate what it means to follow. And I think that's what it really means for me to be a servant leader, is that you're willing to kind of invert the org chart. And then my job is to make sure I'm lifting everybody else up. Is that helpful?
No, I think that's a really important distinction that, I might be in charge, but in this moment, you're being given the opportunity to lead. I think it's a really important thing for leaders to learn how to do because if you ever want to scale your own organization, and I know we're going to talk more about that as we talk about, fractional COO and all that stuff. If you're ever going to scale, you have to learn how to flip that org chart and to be okay with flipping that org chart and still being in charge, but not necessarily being the leader. And a lot of leaders, myself included, have a hard time with that.
Yeah, so I think it starts with redefining delegation.
Mm,
I know you said, well, that's a turn, right? You turn it, but delegation, right? Within no matter what your personality is or your role in the organization is, I'm giving away responsibility, right? And the way you approach that even indicates the type of leader you are, because if it's just certainly people can pick up the BS when it's just like, hey, will you do this? Because I just don't want to do it. Like nobody's
right.
inspired, right? But it goes back to what I was just saying that to me, the definition of true delegation is me saying, hey, listen, will you take on this responsibility? I invite you to lead in this. I will follow you. I don't micromanage you. I don't overlord you. You own this.
Mm,
Can you? And because I think if you feel as a leader that you want to lead an organization that is bigger than yourself, that requires more than yourself. And so you have to give away leadership. That's a whole other thing. If you give me an opportunity, maybe in a fit in where I think we got to stop hiring people.
yeah.
You know, invite people to come lead in your organization.
Yeah.
And I kind of got 4 steps to that, but that's a whole other story. But
Well, I
know,
think we could
I,
probably get into that because, when I think about the workplace of the future, right? If we want to be successful, and especially as AI comes in and people are coming in with all these new tools, it's not going to take your job, but it is going to change your job. So when we're
Mhm.
thinking about how do we create people who can have that discernment of when should I use these tools? How should I use these tools? How can I impact the organization? And then the flip side to that, I talk to a lot of people who are Gen Z and they're just not sold on the whole idea of work. They don't want to be a part of this, even though, there's an opportunity for you to build something truly great. So, yeah, let's get into your thoughts about leadership. What are those 4 steps?
So I think as you are inviting people to lead in organizations, because there's one of the things I try to do is I try to think organizational leadership, right? There's situational leadership, but how do you lead an organization? And I think first and foremost that if I bring you onto our team, I'm inviting you to first lead yourself. Can you lead yourself? Now, we could get really cynical really fast about today's workforce, right? But ultimately, you have to be responsible for yourself. I mean, that's a whole other thing, personal responsibility. And let's just, again, a lot of remote work, but a bad example I'll use is, hey, you're supposed to be in the office at 8:30, but 3 days this week you got here at 8:40. And every day you're coming in going, oh my gosh, traffic is so bad. Now you put me in a situation to say, hey, have you ever thought about actually maybe leaving 15 minutes earlier? See, in other words, lead yourself. Because the moment you put me in this position to have to ask you that question, you've already like stolen some capital
Right.
eh, in our relationship. And again, there's lots of ways that you lead yourself. Just lead yourself with responsibility, communication, all those types of things. And we could unpack that pipeline. But the next thing is that if you're a part of an organization, not only do I want to lead yourself, I want to invite you to lead others. And we've all been a part of the catastrophe of inviting somebody to lead others in our organization that was not good at leading themselves,
Right.
right? And when that happens, because they weren't good at leading themselves, they did not give us a good foundation. And we may have promoted them out of, not necessarily competency, but just capacity, right? This person can do that. So let's put them over there. And so again, there are certain, what I think are leadership competencies that fit under leading yourself and then leading others. If you can learn to lead yourself well and then lead others well, then I think it's important to have opportunities in an organization to lead leaders, right? And that's where you get the opportunity in a growing organization to really have kind of this larger impact. In it, leading leaders is like herding cats, right?
Yes.
But if you haven't really worked well on leading yourself in leading others, there's no way you're going to get a peer group of leaders to follow
Mm.
you. And so there's a progression. And then I think the next progression for me is not only do you lead yourself, lead others, lead leaders, you lead the organization, right? You're taking on, depending on the size of the organization, an the entire organization as it is, or maybe a large division or part of the company, a business function that you're responsible for. And you really have to now, see all the moving parts. And if you work with me a little bit, you can see the progression, right? The you're leading yourself kind of on the runway. By the time you're leading the organization, you're at 50,000 feet, and there should be, you know, gaps in the air as you rise up. And so I
Yeah.
think when you invite leaders to lead, have a plan of progression. And I don't know if that resonates that you see that, Alicia, the progression of the kind of leader you need to be
Yeah.
to move up that pipeline.
Yeah, no, as you're talking, I'm taking like furious notes as we talk it through. There's two things I want to key on. You keep using the word invite instead
Yeah.
of promote or delegate or outsource. And I think that's a really important distinction that
Mm,
if I just give you a leadership opportunity, that's not really me allowing you to lead others or to lead yourself because I'm giving it to you. I'm still the leader in that case. I'm still in control. When I invite you and you accept that, that is really a different mindset about how we treat leaders. It's not to give, but for you to take.
And I think it starts in the hiring process. I don't think you give somebody a job. I invite you to be a part of my organization.
Hmm. I think that's a very different mindset, right? It puts the
Mhm,
power on equal, right?
mhm.
You and I are inviting each other to work together. It's not me giving you something. It's you and I coming together to build something. So that's the first thing that I want to key on. I have a degree in psychology and they talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's immediately what I started drawing was my triangle of first I have to be able to lead myself. Then I can lead others. And once I'm good at leading others, then I can lead other leaders. And once I'm
Mm,
good at leading other leaders, then then I earn the right to be invited to lead the organization, right?
mm. Yeah, thank you for saying it that way too, right? Because we put people in those different levels of the pipeline without earning that right. And we've all seen what happens that takes place.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people and they say, "Yeah, my manager, they suck because, they just got promoted because they were good at sales, but they didn't know how to actually manage or lead people," right?
Mhm.
And I think there's this idea that just because you're good at selling and hitting your quota, that you're going to be good at helping other people sell and hit their quota or whatever their role or responsibility is.
And you just took a rainmaker and asked them to stop making rain.
Yeah. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do that? And I think that's one of the problems that I see is that's the natural progression. If I'm not getting promoted to manager, then I'm a failure in my career. There's nothing wrong with being an individual contributor who's the best individual contributor who's killing
Mm,
it out there. And there's nothing wrong with being a manager who maybe wasn't the best individual contributor in terms of the day-to-day function, but they can rally people and lead and coach and hold people accountable.
absolutely.
Amazing. So I'm gonna take no, I'm gonna put down that tower on my list of things I need to keep in mind of leading self, leading others, leading leaders, and leading the organization. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges you've come across operationally. You have the Thrive organization, you have your fractional COO, all of that. How do you tackle operational challenges? How do you go about making those not a challenge anymore?
So I think the first thing is having, you talked about mindset. I think having a mindset that every problem is meant to be solved, right? And with that, having building a culture that says we're going to jump to the solution side of a problem. Because too often we are really good at articulating the problem and repeating that conversation over and over again
Yeah.
and not really addressing. So that's number one. The other thing is I feel it's extremely important to help organizations clarify priorities and objectives that we're solving the right problems, right? And so part of our focus is to increase our communication around strategy that helps us get the results that we're looking for. When you are unclear of that, everything becomes an emergency and urgency. And that doesn't mean it's strategic. So the way we tackle kind of operational challenges is to clearly define them. Our company looks at what we call the 9 functions of a business. We want to be evaluating those 9 functions of a business and looking for growth opportunities. Growth opportunities for us is the way we evaluate things that are keeping us from growth, right? But if we fix them, like, oh, that's a problem, Bill. No, it's a growth opportunity.
Yeah.
If we crack the code and solve that, we'll move the needle in our organization. And it's not rocket science. We've all read all the same books, right? It's people, it's processes, it's profit. How do you move through those? And so we always start with having clear strategy that helps us run your business 90 days at a time so we can execute at the highest level. And doing that helps us solve problems. Is that too high level or do we want to do I need to bring it down some?
No, so actually, I swear I didn't give you this outline on my questions ahead of time because my very next question is focused on vision to reality. How do you help a leader say, this is my strategic vision, this is where we're going, these are the areas that need to function on all cylinders in order for us to get there, and get people to buy into that reality? How do you do that?
Well, I think first of all is I feel like our company is really gifted in helping extract that from the visionary business owner so it can be put into and communicated in a way so that people know exactly what's expected from them to accomplish that. And, visionaries are visionaries for a reason, right? They are they see the big picture. They don't want to be slowed down by process. Matter of fact, it makes them cringe a little bit. Most of the time, when we are brought in with a company, it's because the business owner has just finally got to the point where they know they're the bottleneck or they're just more to accomplish than they can on their own. And so I think getting that strategic vision, listen, you can Google strategic plan. I have 5 books watching on video. These are the 5 books about strategy and business operating that everybody has read. It's not that you don't know what to do. You need a partner to help extract it,
Yeah.
communicate it, and then hold your team accountable to those expectations. There is no reason your vision cannot be executed. We just have to work together on those elements.
So I saw traction in there.
You
I
do?
have read that book. That is a great book. So I definitely align personally to that visionary approach to life. And I have managed to find a team member who is the greatest on the planet, bar none, at taking that and putting it into reality. I always tell people, if you want big ideas, you come to Alyssa. If you want execution and action, you go to Amber. And so it's just so important that you might have the greatest idea on earth, but if you can't execute on that idea, and in a timely fashion, and in a way that other people can understand, then you just have a great idea, not a business.
Well, all day long. And you might be able to work yourself into a good job doing that. Now,
Mm.
and you're still autonomous because it's your job and it's your shingle. But if you really want to grow a business, it takes partnership and it takes collaborative efforts.
Mm.
And if you want to take execution, implementation, and taking action to getting things done, I often say I love my mother, but I cuss too much. And the reality is, most business owners get frustrated when shit isn't getting done. So,
Yeah.
what I wanted to do was buy the website getshitdone.com, but somebody beat me to it. And so you
Right?
would say, like, Bill, what do you do for us? Well, we get shit done. That's what we do. We execute your vision,
Yeah.
and you need a partner that can execute. You can execute to a certain level, but you can't scale on your own.
Right, Bill, I know this is the first time that we've ever got to talk, but I've always told people that the mission of my life is to build cool shit with cool people, and I'll call that a good life. So, we're on the we're
I
on the
like
same wavelength.
Well, I've got a couple of book ideas. We probably need to resonate on each other before we see
There
if
you
we
go.
can't collaborate.
There you go. I love to hear it. So, you've talked a lot about, having that vision, having that strategy. It's probably still going on, I guess, technically, but the idea of, like, data driven, right? And data is king, but where does intuition intersect with data driven business decisions from your perspective?
So it's not an either or, it's and both, right? And you have to have intuition, you have to have data. I call it you have to you have to have faith, but you also have to have some facts, right? And it's combining those efforts to drive. Now there are moments that for me, because I'm an intuitive leader. I often say I'm much more abstract than I am linear. I don't like step one, step two, step three, step four. And that's like, well, Bill, you're an operations guy. It's a necessity. That's why we do that. But I like the abstract side of leadership much, much more. But if I allow the facts to be presented to affirm my intuition or my faith, then I actually can proceed with greater confidence.
Mm,
Okay. If all I'm doing is focused on facts and data, we all have heard it, we're paralyzed, by all the analysis, then it can rob us from taking opportunity. And I think, we talk about organizational leadership as something I brought up earlier. But I think every organization is also an organism. It's a living thing. Like my company is a living thing.
yeah.
And we like using words like ecosystem, but if we really actually define, do you understand the connotation of what that means? Is that I'm building this data driven, fact focused organization while at the same time I have this intuitive, faith filled organism that I'm trying to put together. I think every business is somewhat bipolar. It's not either or, it's and both. It's both data needed, fact needed, faith, intuition needed. It is all of those things together. So leading that takes multiple personalities. That's why I always say if you're a business owner, you're going to end up with multiple personality disorder. If you're not bipolar before you start business, you will be bipolar by the time you're done.
Right.
And it's gonna, take advantage of all your capacities, but driving through that. And so I don't live in the world of, man, it's got to be data, 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 data. And I don't live in the world that hates on data. I don't want to be responsible for the data. I want to put systems and people in place
Mm.
to be responsible for the data. I want to be the leader who interprets and intuitively says, here's where I think we should go.
And I think that's an important distinction. I talk to a lot of leaders who have this attitude of not only do I need to like have all the data, know how to do all the data, be all of that person who understands all of the context around what we're trying to do. No, you need to be able to interpret what you're seeing, use your intuition, and then extrapolate for your team what that means, why it matters for your organization in this moment.
And good leaders know how to simplify things, right? Just because it's complex does not mean it has to be complicated, right? Sometimes, let's be honest, we have moved into this data world and we've complicated the heck out of simple things, right? Like I love baseball, and like in one, like they'll put together like a graphic for one home run and give me like 5 or 6 data points for a home run. Let me tell you what a home run does. It scores a run.
Right.
And let me tell you how to beat the other team. Score more runs. Like to me, the game is that simple. Now there's a bazillion data points people want to talk about, but like, don't rob me of the joy of the simplicity. Just because it's complex, don't make it complicated.
I think that's an important point that I want to double click into because you're right. I could sit down and I could do a total analysis of a baseball game and I could say, well, when the weather is 52 degrees and it's sunny outside, he's this much more likely to hit a home run. But what does that really tell me? I can't control the weather. I can't change the temperature outside, right? It just says, hey, we might have a better chance of winning this game today. Great. But at the end of the
Yeah,
day, the goal is still to win the game. And the way you win the game
all
is to
day.
score more runs than the other team.
Yeah, and I think business is that simple, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what wins? It's about winning, and can we position ourselves to win?
Right. With the context of, everything we've talked about so far and your experience with your clients and other leaders that you talk to, what do you think the future of leadership looks like?
Well, I'm always hopeful, right? I know there is uncertainty, and I like the word uncertainty better than fear. AI's radically impacted already in a very short time period, and we have yet to see what it will be capable of doing. I think that leaders see opportunities and are always looking to see how to maximize those opportunities. If that was the way you have, that has always led us through change, because that's all it is, right? It's navigating change. And so now, as we move into the future with these uncertain technologies and how they will impact us, the leaders who see opportunities will maximize and take advantages of opportunities. For people who see that as a threat, guess what it will be to you? It will become your threat because you will self-fulfill that prophecy,
Yeah.
you know, every single time. And so I think I don't want to necessarily be an expert at every different technology that comes out, but where it can support me and help me, I want to do it every single time. If AI can take notes from my Zoom call and at the end of that Zoom call, kick out 3 action steps everybody's supposed to do, and it just saved me from going back to that meeting and writing that email, I am all for AI in that moment.
Sold. Sold. Me too. Me too.
And so don't be careful what you criticize just because it's changed. Because really, to me, at least it's really all about how you're navigating change. And effective leaders have to be change managers and they're change activists, right? I don't mean to say even to say change agents. Because if you're, that's an old school term that was used for a lot of people. Like, I'm a change agent. Well, that means you just an agent represents something, right? I
Yeah.
just represent change. Change activists instigate change. And so I don't want to be a change agent. I want to be a change activist. I want to instigate change. So I want to instigate change in your company through our fractional COO services.
Yeah.
Yep. If you pay us a retainer, things should not stay the same. So therefore, we should anticipate what? Change. So let's activate change in that organization.
I am obsessed with the difference between change agent versus changed activist. It's such a tiny tweak in your mindset around it. I'm working on a project right now with a huge company undergoing a huge transformation, and they have a lot of issues and a lot of resistance. We're looking for a fundamental transformation of who they are as an organization. And the idea of change agents has been thrown around a lot. Like, who are our agents of change? Who are our organizational leaders who are going to get out there and show us the way? But really, it's about change activism. That
Oh man,
is a powerful difference.
yeah, it's good. That road, you can make this like I can speed it up. I'm a fire hose full of straw. So if I start stuttering, it's just because I'm excited, right? And so those are those are not only the conversations that fire me up, those are the organizations we want to be a part of
Hmm.
and spearhead that kind of thinking. Matter of fact, if that kind of thinking doesn't inspire you or that kind of shift in conversation, we're probably not going to serve you well. But if you let us
Yeah.
do those things, man,
Yeah, we're
big
not
thing.
we're not going to be a fit if you're not ready to get a little uncomfortable, try a few new things. If the words, well, we've always done it that way, come out of your mouth, then we're probably not a good fit for you, right?
All day long.
So, one thing that I wanted to double click into with you is um, when you think about that leader that's ready to be a change activist, what is the number one skill that they're just really excellent at? So I'm a leader, I'm listening to this. I want to be a change activist. What skill should I focus on improving so that I can be that leader that my company needs me to be?
Oh, you're gonna put me on a spot. It's because I think it's a combination of things, but the first, if you're gonna use the word skill, I'm gonna say communication, but I even want to dig into that and say really learn to listen. Right. Because I think if you're going to be an activist, you have to be able to know your audience really, really well. That only happens by listening, and you have to be able to be a communicator that can connect. Just because you said it doesn't mean you connected. How can I communicate in a way to connect? And so yeah, that's a big passion of mine. I think a lot of times, even our role at Thrive is to assist company in more effectively communicating.
It's not just about being a great communicator, right? That's an email. And they're sending out this email and it's coming from the VP, whoever of the organization, and then it just dies right there because it wasn't designed to connect. It was a communication to communicate, not a communication to connect. And I think that's an important distinction that a lot of people miss.
Yeah, I always say emails are for information and not conversation, right? And we have to know the difference of really having great communication feels like a conversation. I had the privilege of having a speaking engagement last week. And when I was done, one of the people that were in the audience had not heard me speak before. But we've had a lot of dinner table conversation.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I never heard you speak, but I just felt like it was at the table. It was the same thing. And I took that as a great compliment. Like, and I'm not, you know what I mean? Because I felt
Yeah.
like I was on the stage, but she felt like I was at the table.
Yeah. No, my immediate reaction is like, thank you. That's exactly what I want to hear. I have objective met if someone were to say that to me.
Yeah, all
I
day.
love that. So, okay, two more questions. Number
Okay.
one, if any of our listeners have really resonated with you, Bill, where can they connect with you online? Where can they find you?
Well, first of all, find us on our website at thrivebusinessoperations.com. So it's really simple. It's our business name, thrivebusinessoperations.com. You could download our ebook, The Thrive Op Cycle, which talks about how we deliver our fractional COO services. You can meet me or my business partner, Kai Bailey. There's scheduling opportunities there. So the website, but any social media platform you're on, I am Bill Simmons Live, Live. And whether that's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you find me, you message me. I am one of those really anal people that respond to messages. If you reach out to us and we can serve you, we'd be happy to have that conversation.
Awesome. And
Oh.
then the last question, thinking about all of the incredible thought leaders out there who are really building high performing teams, setting leadership vision, who else should we be talking to? Who is leading the way on leadership and high performing teams?
So I am going to talk about who influences me that maybe the audience doesn't know about, and that is my business partner, Kai Bailey. I think we did have a chance to tell a lot about that story about how she and I came together for what in serving Thrive, and we are business partners. But Thrive, we Kai and I not only share tremendous core values, we believe we are the best definition of synergy, which is team, right? And Kai is fantastic at helping people feel part of something bigger than themselves. And to me, that's the definition of team. Does this group of people feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves? And Kai does a wonderful job of making people feel like they're a part of something special.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much for being on Taking Back Monday.
Oh, thank you for having me.